tell me for certain that's the nasal passageway, okay? There's no way of knowing that. Got cartilage down here, could that be the trachea? Potentially, yes. Pointer. Okay, I've got cartilage down here. You can't tell me for certain. You've got an artifact where they pulled apart right here. But I can see I have then the conducting portion. Got the pseudostratified epithelium. I can make out a little bit of cilia along the surface, but I make out tons of goblet cells in there. I can then make out that I've got a layer here. We'll call it the lamina propria. Some books may call it a submucosa, but most sources, if it's just one layer, I don't distinguish two layers, we'll call it a lamina propria. I can see I've got glands in there. There's an arteriole right here I'm in the lumen of. Here's that cavernous tissue of vein. Here's another cavernous tissue vein. Probably one right there, it's harder to make out. But, you know, certainly here and here is some of that cavernous tissue. All right, we take a look here. Once again, if I look up here on the surface, I've got a pseudostratified epithelium. I can see cilia along the surface up here. Don't really make out the goblet cells as well. I mean, like this right here is probably a goblet cell. We're not picking up much stain. Some stains just don't show the goblet cells as well as others. On that, I've got a lamina propria with some serous glands in it right here, and then I've got cartilage down below here. Okay. All right, same thing here. Once again, I've got a pseudostratified ciliated epithelium. Goblet cells stand out a great deal. The other ones overstained a little bit where they didn't show up as well. But you see that here. Very thick lamina propria, I've got basement membrane, I should say, right here. That's more common than trachea, even though this was in a slide that says it came from the nasal passageway. You can't tell that. I can make out I've got serous glands down here in the connective tissue. All right, now, when I look at this, I can't expect you to know this is a nasal passageway. Why? Because it is olfactory epithelium. How do I know that? Well, if I look, here's my basement membrane coming across right here at the pointer. So everything above this epithelium. Now, if you look at it, it's many cell layers thick, isn't it? And then I've got this layer up here at the surface that is anuclear, no nuclei in it. And sometimes you even get a little bit of a bar, what they call a terminal bar. We've seen that before with cilia before, but this is my layer of tangled stereocilia. And the fact, this doesn't look like pseudostratified anymore, does it? It's too many cell layers thick. Okay? A large tangled mat of stereocilia up here, which I recognize because there's no nuclei in it. Many layers of nuclei down here. Now, if I'm going to ask, if I put the star right here, this bottom layer, I'd have to be in my basal cells. Put the star right here. I'm in my olfactory receptor cells. I'll put the star way up here if I want my sustenacular cells. Now, this one really doesn't define those layers as well as the one we had from the textbook for lecture, does it? But this is reality, okay, in terms of how it looks right here. And then if I, these glands down here, what's the name of these? These are Bowman's glands. They're serous glands, but they're only Bowman's glands. The serous glands below the olfactory epithelium are the only place we call them Bowman's glands. That's because they've got a different job than the other serous glands we see other places. All right, same thing here. I see my tangled mat of stereocilia up top here. I see multiple layers of nuclei, and then here would be my basement membrane. And in this case, the Bowman's glands are staining with my kind of greenish color. I see Bowman's glands here. Okay. Then I see a layer right here of bone. That's my cribriform plate. All right. Low power magnification, once again, I can see what I need to see. If I know I'm within the respiratory system, that makes this an easy call. Okay? I know that I've got my tangled mat of stereocilia up here where there aren't any nuclei. multiple layers of suspinacular, olfactory, and basal cells. And then what I'm seeing staining a darker pinkish color down here, these will be my Bowman glands. All right, trachea. Trachea, if I'm gonna see that, I need a very low power image. That may even be a demagnifying objective. Here I've got the trachea, here's the esophagus. C-shaped cartilage rings, but I don't catch it in its entirety. Here is one C-shaped cartilage ring, I've caught most of it. But then let's say it's going behind the screen here where it's no longer in the same plane of view. Well, here is the one above it where I just caught a little bit of it. You know, from here to here represent the open part of the C. I'll often see a little piece of muscle connecting those two right there. All right, higher power magnification. You can't look at this and tell me, is this a bronchus or is this a trachea? I can see cartilage up here, so I know I've got a big piece of cartilage. Is it a ring or just a huge cartilage plate? I can't tell. But low power magnification, I can make out right here, I've got my thick conducting epithelium. Got a thin layer of connective tissue before I start the glands here that I'll call my lamina propria. Then my submucosa where I can see the serous glands. I may have mucus glands in there as well, but I can't see them. Okay? And then I can see plenty of connective tissue out here as well. There's labeling veins for you in it and so on. All right. Here is one I got right at the open end of the C. And once again, I can't expect you to recognize this as trachea, high power. But I can make out, if I know I'm in the respiratory system, I've got a conducting epithelium here. Here's cartilage, here's that little tiny piece of smooth muscle connecting the open end of the C. And within the trachea, it's the only place you have smooth muscle. Think about it. You've got the C and you're on the back end, the closed end of the C. It wouldn't make any sense to have smooth muscle there. You're pulling on cartilage, and cartilage isn't really going to move, is it? If you want to move cartilage at all, you want to pull on that open end of the C. And that's where you find, the only place you find the muscularis layer within the trachea. All right, not a good slide, but didn't have a whole lot to choose from because once again, probably requires a demagnifying lens and not everybody has those. But here I've got cartilage coming around, not on one section. Here's the cartilage, let's say behind it, right here. Trachea, I'm not gonna ask you anything from remotely like this from a slide, but just pointing out once again the size of that cartilage ring going around the wall of that trachea. We get down to bronchi. Bronchi, you're going to be within the lungs. And you look up here, this is lung tissue. How come this looks fatter, thicker, not as open as some of the other? We'll get to that when we get to development. It turns out you don't get maximum number of alveoli thinning out the tissue and forming maximum number of alveoli until you're about 8 years old. Okay, this is a 2-year-old equivalent in mouse age. Okay, in other words, it sometimes looks rather thick like this and not so much like the very thin, delicate lung tissue we looked at that I admired that plastic section we had. That's because of the fact it's just a younger. But you recognize this, okay, I've got an air passageway within the lung. Looks like I've got a thick lining to it. It may be a simple columnar, maybe even a simple cuboidal. Doesn't matter, I mean, I don't make out more than one layer of nuclei, but it doesn't matter. And then the question is this a bronchus or is this a bronchiole? Look out here, I've got numerous cartilage plates in the wall, don't I? All of this would be cartilage plates, that's gonna make that a bronchus. I've got a little bit more of a muscularis layer in here. That pink layer right there is muscularis, but once again, if I've got multiple plates, I can be pulling between those plates and have an effect in terms of bronchoconstriction, bronchodilation. All right, it's probably the same slide right here. Epithelial tissue not staining all that well, but it's certainly not a simple squamous, correct? So you know you're in a conducting portion. And I look here, I've got cartilage plates. Once again, I know I'm within the lungs because this is lung tissue down here. Okay, I know I'm looking at a bronchus. It's not simple squamous, too thick. All right, here, if I look, I can see out here, I know I'm in the lung. This is lung tissue, much thinner. Here's an air passageway. What is it? Well, I got one piece of cartilage right here. Therefore, I know I'm in a bronchus. Okay. Probably same image, just a slightly higher magnification. They didn't pick an image that had the epithelial tissue defined that well, but once again, you know that's not simple squamous when you look at it, correct? Don't get it all the way around, but even the fact here, I can see cartilage, I know I've got to be in a bronchus. All right, now when we get down further into the lungs, okay, now this is, a older than 8 years old. How do I know? Because look how thin that tissue has now gotten. You've got maximum number of alveoli at this stage. And so you see tons of alveoli. You've got some long hallways here where it's all thin epithelium. That tells me I'm looking at an alveolar duct. Okay. I don't see any terminal bronchioles, nor do I see any respiratory bronchioles in this image because it's all rather thin, isn't it? You see some blood vessels traveling through here and here, smaller ones here, but I don't see any air passageways that I can call bronchioles or bronchi. Okay, here on the other hand, if I take a look here, I've got an air passageway and it's got thick lining all the way around it. When I start coming here, here's an alveolus coming off and then some thick alveolus coming off, look, thick alveolus, a tiny bit of thick alveolus. I'd put let's say right where the head of that pointer is, put the star right there, I'm in a respiratory bronchiole. I don't quite get it down far enough yet to get into an alveolar duct. This image right here, if I look, I've got thick, a little bit of thin, thick, a little bit of thin, thick, a little bit of thin coming off over here. I've got thick, alveolus, thick, alveolus, thick, alveolus, thick. I could put a star right here, or I could put it even right here. I'm in a respiratory bronchiole. I don't get it yet where I don't have the thick along the edges alternating thick and thin. And so I'm not into an alveolar duct yet. All right, we take a look here. Take a look at this opening back here. All along I've got a thick lining, don't I? No interruption in it. That tells me I'm in a terminal bronchiole. They label it here. I could have put it back here as well, a little bit further to the left. Once I get up here, if I look here, I go thick, thin. See that alveolus coming off right there with thin? Thick, and then thin. If I come down on this side, I've got thick, thin, thick, thin, thick, thin, thick, thin. Okay, that tells me where they've got it labeled there. It's got alternating thick and thin. You can actually see the alveoli coming off in some places where it thins. That's a respiratory bronchiole. Don't show it real well, but I get up here, I don't see the thick anymore. I'm probably getting into an alveolar duct as I get up here, but it's coming behind the screen or in front of the screen at that point. All right, what they're telling you right here, they say the asterisk is in an alveolar sac. I won't ask you if I said the asterisk is in a blank. I will not give you both alveolar sac and alveolar duct as a choice. If I take a look though, I go all the way around it, it is thin entirely all the way around it, isn't it? I don't see any sections there where I've got a thicker lining, consisting of a thick epithelium as well as a thick connective tissue. Okay? Everything I see in there is uniformly thin. I don't see any respiratory bronchioles, terminal bronchioles, anything like that. I'm looking at all alveolar duct, alveolar sac, and alveoli. All right, alveoli. Here we've got one, very high power magnification, nice toluidine blue thin section. We can see plenty of capillaries with blood cells in them, can't we? Okay. If we look right here, these are our alveolar type 2 cells. If you really have the perfect image, perfect stain, you tune your microscope well, alveolar type 2 cytoplasm will look phony. Okay, and you can see that in these, can't you? Now, if I want to say alveolar type 1 cells, what I've got to do is I've got to look for something where I can see a nucleus, a pancake nucleus on the surface, which is this one right here. I would call that one. Understand that, I wouldn't give it, this is the one right here to the right of the pointer I would give. What about this nucleus right below the pointer here? I'm going to say that's an endothelial cell nucleus. There's a red blood cell coming out of the screen at me right there, and I think that's an endothelial cell nucleus. That's the type 1 cell that I would mark just to the right of the pointer here. All right, if we take a look here, you can see plenty of red blood cells in the walls of these capillaries. Type 1s, I like what they've labeled both of number 4. Here and here, I particularly like this one right here. Nucleus, you can see pancake right on the surface, that's alveolar type 1. All right, alveolar type 2, rounder nuclei, kind of bulge out into the lumen a little bit. I like both of what they have shown right there. Here'd be another one right here. All right, this one right here may be a dust cell. You know, it's not part of the wall necessarily, touching the wall, but we've got better dust cells we can show later on. All right, a little bit of a different section here. Rounded nuclei within the walls, those are my type 2. Flattened nuclei, pancake nuclei, making up the walls, those are my type 1s. Will I ever confuse a type 1 from an endothelial cell? Absolutely. Sometimes you can't tell which it is, actually. I won't give you both choices. Okay? All right, take a look at this one. Boy, they labeled a nice, big, fat type 2. Look, see the cytoplasm? Kind of looks a little bit foamy there. That's typical of a type 2. Type 1, I would have labeled this one right here is a type 1. That one's a little bit too much like an endothelial cell for me to feel good about it. I'd call that type 1 right here as well. This one right up here on the surface. A lot of times it's fairly judgment call on these. All right, if we take a look here, type 1s. I like this one right here. Maybe not as pancake of a nucleus, but that nucleus kind of oblong on the surface. So here's a better one right here to the right of the pointer. Great type 1. If I want a type 2, rounded nuclei, bulges a little bit out to the lumen. Here's a good type 2. I mean, there's plenty of type 2s in here. But I like that one right there would be the one I'd label. They do label a dust cell for you, don't they? Tend to be larger, not always, but tend to be larger. And once again, you can get the idea it's sitting against the lumen, not a part of, sitting against the wall, not a part of the wall though. All right, much better here in terms of dust cells. Numerous of them. There's so much dust, their cytoplasm is filled with dust they phagocytize, let's say dust particles they phagocytize, and that's why they look the way they do. But there's plenty of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down here. Plenty of them in there showing the dust cells. And once again, if they want to make a slide of dust cells, all they've got to do, if there's road construction, you put the mouse cage outside. At least you used to be able to. Can't do that anymore with federal regulations of animal rights, okay? But put it outside, let it be dusty, and that would take care of it. All right, here is one, let's say from a 5-year-old, because it's not nearly as thin. Lower power magnification, if I'm going to label it, I'm going to label this one right here, this nucleus right here I'm circling as a type 1, I'm sorry, type 2. Okay, see how the cytoplasm bulges out into the lumen over here a little bit? If I was going to label a type 1, I'd probably pick this nuclei to the right of the pointer. Here's even a better one right here to the right of the pointer. Okay, plenty to choose from. I'll typically go through here and pick out very, very good ones. Okay, if I'm going to label it for an exam. All right, that is what we've got.